Please give the invocation. Am I coming over the speaker?
Talk to Tim now.
Okay.
Want to make sure it's all right.
Well, council, everyone, good evening. Solomon, his book of wisdom says, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the knowledge of God. Would you please pray with me? God, our maker and ruler, we praise you for your wisdom, by which you formed all things, and by which you direct all things, guiding and ruling all by your perfect plan. We thank you for your goodness and mercy every day in our lives and in our city. As we look for your blessing tonight upon the work of this council, pray that you would help everyone to see their need to call upon you for wisdom. May all ears be attentive to your wisdom, all hearts inclined to the understanding that you freely give. Thank you for these men and women whom you have appointed to serve our community. Please give them the humility to seek your wisdom. Please give them the understanding and ability to make such decisions that would bring about a true love of neighbor and the prosperity and safety of this community and its people. May we not turn from truth and wisdom or from goodness and justice. May we clearly see that all of these gifts come from you alone.
Amen.
And so we ask them of you in the name of Christ the Savior. Amen.
Amen.
It is 6:02 in the mayor's absence. I will call this meeting to order. The mayor will be marked as absent. Present are alderpersons Clem.
Here?
Monroe is absent. Simmons.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Stacy. Shadle.
Here.
Sanders. And Sellers. Could I please have a motion to appoint a mayor pro tem for tonight's meeting?
I would appoint Alderman Shadle for this evening's meeting.
We have a motion made by Alderperson Clem and seconded by Alderperson Sellers that Alderperson Shadle be the mayor pro tem for tonight's meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? The motion passes 7-0. Alderperson Shadle, it's yours.
If everybody could rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
With liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda for tonight is the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Clem and second by Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Approval of the minutes from the special meeting on June 1st, 2023, and a regular meeting on June 5th, 2023.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Clem, second by Sellers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passed. And item 3, public comments. There was nobody on the sign-in sheet. We'll move to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature, will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as the first item after approval of the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything?
No.
That being said, we take a roll call vote.
Roll call on this, please. We need a motion first and a second.
Motion to pass the consent agenda?
Second.
That'd be motion by Clem and second by Sellers. could take the roll.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders. Sellers, Clem,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
and Stacy. The motion passes 7-0.
Moving on to item 5. It's the first reading of ordinance 2023-29.
I can. Ordinance authorizing the sale and/or disposal of certain personal property owned by the city. Tonight, we have Police Department recovered abandoned bicycles.
That's going to be presented by Chief Schenberger.
So the Freeport Police Department takes custody of bicycles that are abandoned within the city. When we take these bicycles in, they are stored at the bike shed that's located at the Freeport City Yards, 1001 North Island Avenue. Over a period of time, the accumulated bikes begin to take up room in the shed and need to be disposed of. We usually wait at least 6 months for this, though. Currently, there are 35 bicycles in the bike shed at the city yards. Of those 35 bicycles, 9 are in poor condition and need to be destroyed, but 26 are in decent shape and can be donated to the Boys and Girls Club of Freeport. This is in alignment with the strategic, or with the Connected and Accessibility community. Donating 26 bicycles to the Boys and Girls Club of Freeport will promote transportation by bicycle. The rider will get to where they need to go safely while being active and healthy. The Freeport Police Department donated 13 bicycles to the Boys and Girls Club of Freeport in December of last year. These bicycles were put to good use, and donating them is a positive alternative to the former method of getting rid of them, which was discarding them at a recycling center. This costs no money, and we're requesting to donate 26 bicycles to the Boys and Girls Club of Freeport and dispose of 9 bicycles at a recycling center. And then attached to the memo I submitted was a list of the bicycles.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Motion to approve and also suspend the rules, suspend the rules so we can approve it tonight.
Motion by Parker, and the second was for the original motion to approve. The request for suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must be passed by 2/3 majority vote. If we could take the roll on the suspension.
Be made as a separate motion after the consideration of the primary.
I believe
Alderperson
Parker had made a
Go
motion
ahead.
also.
Parker combined them, but we only had one second. Is that correct? Or did you combine the seconds as well? You counted them for both?
CC seconded it, but I can second one of them if you need to, not a problem.
So the second is for the combined motion?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
It's as long as we're in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay,
That would be for the suspension as well,
Right.
your second? Okay.
so I will take a roll call vote, and this will be on the suspension. Now what do I do? Suspension only or the combined?
It would be on the combined.
On the combined, so you're voting for the suspension as well as approving the disposal of the Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers. Clem.
Aye.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
And Stacy. The suspension passes and the ordinance passes.
Now, get rid of them instead of hold on to them for 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Item 6 is first reading of ordinance 2023-30.
Ordinance amending section 480.11 prohibited parking, southwest corner of Empire and Harlem.
Presented by Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. City staff has received complaints about the total viewing distance at the intersection of South Harlem and Empire Street. Vehicles heading north are having issues seeing as they pull out on Empire traffic due to lack of no parking restrictions at the southwest corner of the intersection. With the 2021 renovations on Empire Street, parking was increased on the south side of the road near Canova's, where a new curb and street were installed. The south side of the street in front of Canova's has been designated no parking for many years prior to the Empire being repaved. Currently, drivers are experiencing sight distance issues at the corner of Harlem and Empire when vehicles are parked near the southwest corner of the intersection. This creates a high potential for accidents with the volume of traffic on Empire daily and an increased summer activity in the area. Staff believes a full 25-foot parking area should be changed to no parking for the added traffic safety at this intersection on the southwest corner. This will only reduce only one parking spot. Kurt, if you could just pull up a Google map of that intersection and just give us a street view of it so everybody can see it. Okay, as you can see there by the stormwater inlet, the yellow no parking is fairly short right there, and we'd like to extend that 25 feet to the west. So staff recommends having the city street department paint the curb safety yellow an additional 25 feet to the west at the corner of Harlem and Empire, and also install a no parking sign to create a line of sight for traffic movement. So the strategic plan, responsive and efficient government prioritizes the safety of the city's streets and citizens. Approval of this parking modification provides the necessary resources to increase vehicle traffic safety at the intersection.
Alderman Parker.
I personally have been in that intersection when this park's real busy and their Canovas is busy, and it is dangerous. It's a hit and miss to leave, so I think it's a good idea.
If I could ask a question quick, would that be consistent, adding that on with the no parking on the other three corners of that intersection?
Yes, it would be.
It kind of looked that way in
Yeah.
the picture.
Thank you.
I would second it if that's a first.
It's a motion, yeah.
Okay, I'll second it.
Motion by Parker, second by Clem to move that on.
I would just make the comment when Kurt brought the 25-foot back, I think it's a big 25-foot, but, you know, whatever 25-foot is, a car like that.
Yeah, it would be, I don't know, about 10 feet to the west of that pole there, so.
Because what is there now counts towards that 25, right?
Well, we're gonna add another
Yeah.
25, so.
Okay.
Yeah. And if it pleases the council, I'd be very happy to have you suspend the rules on this one so we could just get this done.
So moved on that.
Second, okay, Joyce second.
Motion by Parker and
Can we just take one at a time?
Okay.
Is that all right?
we don't need to move it on, we just need the motion in a second. That was by Parker, second by Clem.
So I think we have a motion and a second on the primary motion. So
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
by
And
Parker
now
and
you would
Clem.
like to suspend the rules.
Now he's
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry I butted in
And it
there.
was
Okay,
the same on the suspension of the rules. It was motion by Parker and second
okay.
by Clem.
I am with you. And now would you like a vote on the suspension, Chair?
The suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must be passed by 2/3 majority vote. If you could take the roll.
On the suspension of the rules, Shadle, what say you?
Aye.
Sanders? Sellers? Clem?
Aye.
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
And Stacy? The suspension of the rules passes 7-0.
And now we would be voting on the second reading of the ordinance to pass it. If you could take the roll on that.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders? Sellers? Clem?
Aye.
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
And Stacy? And the motion passes, or the ordinance passes 7-0.
Item 7 is the first reading of ordinance 2023-31. If you could read that, please.
Ordinance amending Chapter 806 alcoholic liquor sales, placing a cap on the issuance of video gaming licenses.
It's presented by Alderperson Clement Sellers.
Yes. We originally brought this up at the last Committee of the Whole meeting and had some discussion and moved it forward to this meeting. After further discussion with the parties involved, I would like to take, if I could, and move this on to the next COW meeting so we can modify everything we talking about putting into place. There's a lot of things that come into place here about the ownership of the present businesses. If an ownership gets split up, what happens to the license? You know, which ones are affected? There's some that are transferred in. There's a lot of questions here, and we really want to make sure we go into the past on what Dovey has for some history and stuff, so we try and get everything in it. Steve's done a great job of drafting things. I've talked to Tim Mahoney that spoke from the Liquor Commission, and he would like to come back and talk with us. If there's something in this that we want to make sure that it benefits everybody, that either somebody doesn't get cut out, something is put in there that really shouldn't be in there. So if we could just take a little more time to do that, I'd appreciate it.
Do we need a motion and a second to move that, or we can?
It should, yep.
I just want to add also that I do agree with Tom. I do think that we need to dig a little deeper into knowing what we're going to do so we don't hurt the ones that are already in there versus people that are trying to come in, and maybe have deadlines and different things like that. So we can have a meeting and talk about it a little later. I'm in agreement with that. I don't want to just jump and do something without having more information.
Would you like to make the motion? To the cow?
I make a motion that we hold this over to our next COW meeting.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to move this discussion on the ordinance to the July cow. Motion by Sellers and second by Clem.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want to add, if I could, we've had a few calls on it, and it's been calls for support. It's been calls from owners where they stand, and it's basically, just so everybody knows, it's not a thing to basically take if we got 32 now and bring it down to 5. That's not the case whatsoever. The case is to, let's make everything work right, and let's see how many we really want to have, and if it all works out fine, we'll keep moving it forward. So, thank you for your help.
Thank you. Do we just take a voice vote on that? Or is it good just with the motion in a second?
I think to move it, it's procedural. You can do a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passed. That'll come up in July cow. Item 8 is the first reading of ordinance 2023-32. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance approving special use permit application at 200 South Adams Avenue, submitted by Adams Liquor Express to examine the special use of an M1 limited manufacturing zone to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishment the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises per section 1252.01B11.
This is presented by Director Duckman.
Thank you, Alderperson Shadle. Staff received a special use permit from the petitioner for 200 South Adams Avenue. And this subject property was previously Sunshine Liquor, and it has been vacant for the past few years. And the petitioner would like to reopen this establishment as a restaurant that's serving alcohol. On June 1st, the City of Freeport Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval of the petitioner's request by a vote of 5-0 with 0 abstentions. And on June 15th, the Planning Commission recommended approval by voice vote of 4-0 with 0 abstentions. And in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Planning Commission, staff recommends approval of the petitioner's request.
I make a motion that we accept this approval.
Second.
Motion by Sellers, second by Clem, to move this on.
Yes.
Do we don't even need a vote, it's just moved on?
No, it will go to second reading at the July 3rd meeting.
Right. Okay. Item 9, the first reading of ordinance 2023-33.
Ordinance approving special use permit application at 1101 West Empire Street submitted by Canova's Pizza to examine the special use of a B11 restricted retail business zone to allow restaurants with outdoor serving areas per section 1252.01B10.
This is presented by Director Duckman again, please.
Thank you, Alderperson Shadle. Staff received a special use application from Canova's, and location is at 1101 West Empire Street. And the special use permit is for a restaurant with an outdoor serving area. And this property is a long-established restaurant, and they would like to add a seating area in the front of their restaurant. And on June 1st, City of Freeport Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And on June 15th, the Planning Commission also recommended approval by a vote of 4-0 with 0 abstentions. And in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, staff recommends approval of the special use permit. And staff is also requesting a suspension of the rules for the reason that it's outdoor seating, it's already summer, and the petitioner would like to take advantage of the weather for their special use.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to move it forward,
Second.
and then I would make a motion to suspend the rules. That way we'll keep them separate.
Second.
I have a motion to move it on from Clem, second by Sellers, and a motion to suspend the rules from Clem and second by Parker. Alderman Sanders, you had a comment?
Yeah, just wondered, that's an existing established item that they want to implement to that building, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, we'll vote at first on the suspension of the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must be passed by a 2/3 majority vote. If you could take the roll.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders? Sellers? Clem?
Aye.
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
And Stacy? The suspension passes 7-0.
And now we would take a vote on the second reading of the ordinance. If you could take the roll, please.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders? Sellers? Clem?
Aye.
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
And Stacy? And the ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item 10 is the first reading of ordinance 2023-33. No, I correct that. It's a first reading of ordinance 2023-34. It's item 10.
Ordinance approving special use permit application at 605 to 607 Northwest Avenue submitted by Freeport Liquor Express to examine the special use of a B3 commercial and wholesale zone to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishment for the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises per section 1252.01B11.
Presented by Director Duckman.
Thank you, Alderperson Shadle. Staff received a special use permit application from the petitioner for their property located at 605, 607 Northwest Avenue. And this subject property has been Starshine Spirit since July of 2017. The property had recently been sold to the petitioner in June of 2022. And the petitioner would like to continue its existing use as a restaurant and liquor store. And on June 1st, City of Freeport Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval of the petitioner's request by a vote of 5-0 with 0 abstentions. And on June 15th, the Planning Commission approved the motion by a vote of 4-0 with 0 abstentions. In line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, staff is recommending approval of the petitioner's request. Staff is also requesting a suspension of the rules.
Mr. Chair,
Alderperson Clem.
I would make a motion to move it forward, and understanding the situation, I'll do it in a second motion, but if we don't suspend the rules on this, basically, the business will have to close down for X number of days and before we get to July 3rd, so for the next meeting. Is there a real reason for the suspension, correct?
And I apologize for not expanding on that, but yeah,
that's okay.
yes, no, you are correct, and thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. So I
We have
made
a second to that motion?
Second.
A second by Sellers.
and I'll make a motion to suspend the rules so he can stay open.
Second to that.
And motion by Clem to suspend, seconded by Sellers. The suspension of the rules is non-debatable, must be passed by 2/3 majority vote. If you could call the roll, please.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders. Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Simmons, Parker,
Aye.
and Stacy. The suspension passes 7-0.
And now, before you would be the second reading of the ordinance, and if you could call the roll on that.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders, Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Simmons, Parker,
Aye.
and Stacy. The ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item 11 would be adoption of Resolution R 2023-47. If you could read that, please.
Resolution approving estimate for trucks 20 and 27 rebody dump beds.
That's presented by Director Boyer,
Thank you, Your Honor.
Manager Boyer, I'm sorry.
Street Division trucks 20 and 27 are experiencing significant rust, and it's leading to dump body failure during street maintenance operations this year. The cause of the failure is a combination of deferred maintenance, age, and metal fatigue. Truck 20 and 27 are used on a weekly basis for general street duties, including snow plowing, hot mix and asphalt patching, gravel hauling operations, and so forth. Staff requested bids for the beds and truck repairs, blasting and painting from Monroe Truck and Bonnell Industries. Truck 20 and 27 are critical to the city's daily operations and immediate repairs necessary before the snow season. The estimated lead time for repair is currently 16 weeks. Public Works received a dump body replacement estimate from Monroe Truck for $29,164 per truck, and Bonnell Industries for $36,021.48. Staff plan for the replacement of the two bodies in the 2023 street operations and maintenance budget, as we knew we needed the replacements last season. Funding for this project is budgeted through the Street Division Operation and Maintenance Fund, and staff requests that council approve the Monroe Truck equipment cost estimate to perform the replacement for a total of $58,328 for truck 20 and 27. Responsible and efficient government responds quickly and effectively to adverse weather conditions that impair safety and mobility. Prompt replacement of the dump bodies will ensure operational readiness for the 2023-24 snow removal season.
Richard.
Alderman Parker.
This is the time to get her done before it flies. I make the motion to approve it.
I have some.
Yep.
I just wanted to ask, was there any other alternatives for the replacement box of these dump trucks and whatever vehicles we're attempting to replace? Was there any other options other than just, you're talking about purchasing a new one, aren't you? Or replacing the old one?
In this case, it is replacing the dump bodies on the truck, so the chassis are
Just the body?
the chassis will be the same.
Yeah, okay. So there's no replacement of a new truck?
Well, we are working on that, but right now lead times for new trucks are like 2 to 3 years out, and the prices of trucks have gone crazy. So we're in the process of working on replacing a couple of the trucks, but we've got good chassis that just need the dump beds replaced, so we'd like to just fix those.
Okay.
I have.
Alderman
Ms.
Sellers.
Shadle? Yeah, I would just like to know, how much, I know you said they cost a lot, but, you know, how much do these trucks cost if they were new? And then I'd like to know how much is in that fund that you said that these trucks would be coming out? What is the, what are, our ins and out, and how much is our balances, and, what do we have in this fund?
So the answer to your first question is these trucks cost about $250,000 to replace new, and somewhere between $230 and $250 depending on the options and things. And to answer your question on the budget line item, we budgeted for 3, but
3 getting fixed? Or?
yes, 3 dump body replacements. However, some of the prices have gone up, so instead of doing 3, we have to do 2, and that's what we're going to stick with, and then we'll see what we're left what we have left at the, after those two are completed.
Okay, so maybe I could get the balance of how much money is in that fund and what's coming in and out of that fund. I'd just like to see what it is. And did you get any, oh, Alderman Shadle, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. And did you get any other quotes besides the quote that you got from this company?
Yeah, Bonnell quoted and Monroe Truck quoted, both of those companies. And there's not a whole lot of area, there's not a whole lot of these type of equipment replacement places near us, but those are the two we generally look to for quotes.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Clem?
City Manager, does this go, are these newer trucks or are these the old ones? The only reason I ask is I know there was a snafu during the pandemics and getting a couple trucks and they came in all hosed up and is,
I believe our newest truck is 8 years old and our oldest one is something like 25.
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Sanders?
Manager Boyer has any other recommendations for the upkeep of these trucks going to end up in an extended expenditure other than what you just cited to us?
Well, on the trucks that have dump bodies that are salvageable, we've had them sandblasted and painted. If that's answering your question.
That's what I was
Yeah,
getting.
that's usually $5,000 to $7,000 depending upon how much they need.
Depending on the conditions. of
Yeah,
the vehicle.
but once they get to a certain point, and these trucks have been to that point since I've been here, when you have rust through on the tailgates and all the hardware is falling off. We had a problem last year where one of our 10 yards, literally the hinge ripped off the back and the whole body fell off of it, and so we had an emergency rebody at that point. But we're trying to at least get the ones we know of replaced right away.
Okay. What is the expirations on all of our vehicles? What is the set scheduling replacement for all of our vehicles in this city?
I'd like to replace the heavy trucks. I'd like to get 2 every year if the budget, exists.
Yeah.
But like I said, with the lead times and the budgetary pressures and stuff, we have to kind of maintain what we have as best we can for now.
Okay.
I'm just on a note, I'm just noticing on the Monroe draft, the chassis information is the year of the one unit is 2008. So this is a 25-year-old
Yeah.
truck that
Due for,
Oh, wow.
due for new surgeries.
we had a motion on the floor by Parker to accept. Is there a second?
I believe, I'll second
I'll
it if
second
it
it.
hasn't been.
Motion by Parker, second by Clem.
Can I have another question?
Yes.
Are we
So-
saying that these are 25-year-old trucks that we want to put that much money in? Are they going to last? Are we going to do this again? I know you talked about other different things. That's what I want to know.
Well, I think at this point, you can
Oh.
better answer also, Manager Boyer, is the fact that a new truck would be well north of $200,000, and if it was even available, we probably can't even get them. If you could elaborate.
Thank you. Yes, the answer is we plan to bring before council the request for 2 new trucks once we get the specifications put together. We did budget for those as well. These trucks are actually 15 years old, and they're in relatively good shape. The chassis are in relatively good shape. So some of the old ones, we definitely want to cycle those out as time allows. So as the new ones come in, but we've got to maintain our current stock to the highest quality we can, because I don't know when we're going to have, if we're going to be able to replace these things on a consistent basis going forward. So we have to maintain the inventory we have in as good a condition as possible.
And going back also to your statement about the 10-yard truck, that was last fall, I believe you came to us when basically the box fell off the chassis. We can't afford to do that in the height of plow season when we're dependent on these vehicles. That, as Alderman Parker had mentioned, would be the hour to take care of this.
Absolutely.
I just have one more question. a lot of, some of the repairs and things that we do to these trucks, it's not because, I know a lot of people also do complain about their regular cars, of the roads and the streets and how they're driving them. Is some of that falling off the chassis, whatever that is that, could that be because of the way our streets and stuff are and they're driving down? They could be driving fast and not see a bump. I know a lot of people have been complaining about that, but that's just one thing I'm wondering. Is it some of the repairs because of that? Because I know a guy that just complained that he had to get $300 and something done because he went around, boom, and messed up his whatever it is.
Absolutely, we need to do everything we can to get our roads repaired. However, in this particular case, it's corrosion. So doing plow season, over the years, salt gets inside of different cavities and starts rusting it from the inside out. So we are, as I mentioned before to Alderman Sanders, we are doing a sandblast and painting on the bodies that are in good shape so that we won't have as much of this going forward. But there was a period of time where some of these dump bodies hadn't really been sandblasted and repainted, so they started to get real rusty in the meantime. So
Alderman Shedd.
Yes, Alderman Sanders?
Our trucks are being inspected each year or whatever, but are we budgeting for future trucks replacement, since we have an idea when these trucks start deteriorating real bad and you're doing the inspections on whatever scheduling program you have, are we putting these trucks in our future budget so we can make sure that we're allowing funds to cover pre-cost vehicles? And I just want to know, are we going to start trying to implement that in our program?
as much as we can afford.
Okay.
So that's basically 2 trucks a year.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Clem?
not to belabor the subject, but it might be, Manager Boyer, it might be useful at, not next cow, but one of the cows coming up, to kind of go over our program, simply because years ago, we used to own them all, then we lease a certain portion of them, but the heavy trucks didn't get involved in that, but might be good so we have an overall view of what's there, you know.
Absolutely. Yep, I can do that.
We have a motion by Parker and second by Clem. You could read the roll, please.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Simmons?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
And Stacy. The resolution is adopted 7-0.
And item 12 would be adoption of resolution R 2023-48.
Resolution approving engineering agreement with Fairgram for Hancock Bridge rehabilitation.
And this would be presented by Manager Boyer, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kurt, if we could go ahead and pull up the slide presentation there. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide, I think. The City of Freeport Hancock Bridge is in need of rehabilitation. The bridge was built in 1952 and last had minor repairs in 1985. IDOT and our local bridge engineers performed bridge condition ratings as required by the state standards. The existing deck, beam, and railing system are deteriorated beyond routine repairs due to its age. The Hancock Bridge is a city-owned bridge structure. This city bridge is in need of design services to address the failing beams, deck structure, and railing system. IDOT requires a professional structural engineering firm to go through a specific 12 to 15-month design process to prepare a bridge bid for plans and specifications to Illinois state standards. In 2022, IDOT and city inspection rating reports show the bridge, while still able to pass load ratings, is showing significant signs of age and physical deterioration that need to be addressed. Staff is estimating the rehabilitation project at $2.2 million, using the existing piers and abutments in the plan. Rehabilitation construction will take the bridge out of service for a minimum of 9 months. If the bridge structure was required to be totally replaced, it would have to be modified and raised 8 feet in elevation, widened significantly, and the road structure will also then need to be elevated all the way to Route 75 with significant storm improvements. The total replacement cost is estimated at $10 million for a new bridge. The Hancock Avenue Bridge is significant for resident access to the Arcade housing area and commercial access to the wastewater treatment plant and several large businesses located to the south side of the bridge as the main trucking access point for all semi-traffic. So that includes Consolidated Grain, Inertia, Modern Plating, and again, the wastewater treatment plant who receives large truck deliveries of chemicals. Staff recommends the approval of this design proposal of $205,000 with Fair Graham for the Hancock Avenue Bridge design so the project can move forward. A responsive and efficient government prioritizes the investment of the city's bridge infrastructure projects for long-term sustainability and reliability. Approval of this proposal provides the necessary resources to design the bridge improvements as required by the IDOT Bridge and Structures Division. So we'll go through a couple of the slides here. Let's see here. Would you mind going back to that second slide, Kurt? Okay, so as we mentioned, you've got the housing area and Arcade that use it. Now they do have alternate access through the viaduct off of Shawnee. You've got commercial access for the wastewater treatment plant, and that'll be really critical moving forward as we implement our wastewater treatment plant upgrades with the new SEP system, headworks, lab building, and UV treatment. So during construction of the wastewater treatment plant, we'll definitely need access. And then we have several large employers in the area: Modern Plating, Grain, Consolidated Grain, Inertia. Inertia makes large, heavy mining machinery. So this bridge is specifically necessary for their ability to come in and out of the area. And we also, it's a main access point for main trucking. So on the bridge, as we mentioned here, is built in 52 and rehabbed in 85. Next slide, please. So we've got primarily issues with the deck, the beams, and the railing system. So we'll look at a few pictures of that. So there you can see the deck. What we have is areas where there's through holes. We've put patch mix in some of those areas, but some of them, the patch mix just falls straight through. Next slide, please. This is a little better example. So nothing has been touched on this deck in nearly half a century, or maybe just a little bit more. Next slide, please. These are the guardrails where you have corrosion of the rebar, and that pops the concrete, causing the structure to be degraded. Next slide. Again, another picture. This is a different guardrail with a little different image there, showing the rebar coming through. This is a water main coming through the one of the walls on, I can't remember which side of that is, but you've also showing the pins down at the bottom under that leaf there. There's some needed repairs to those pins, and you can see the corrosion obviously on the beams. Next. This is under the bridge deck. You can see here where we're getting salt water coming through, percolating through some of the cracks in the deck, and then it's causing degradation of the rebar structure under the deck and also popping off the concrete underneath. This shows some of the reduction of the metal. I believe this is supposed to be a 1-inch thick piece of metal. You can see it's lost about a quarter of its thickness there, and there's a lot of areas on this bridge that show this type of degradation. Next. Here you can see some concrete on one of the abutment walls there breaking off under the deck. Next. Also, there's failing corrosion prevention or paint, so that's leading to additional corrosion. That pretty much covers everything. I guess I'd like to open up the floor for questions.
Alderman Parker.
Yes, it's been a concern of mine for a handful of years, that bridge. Couple questions. With the fire department, will their equipment fit underneath the overpass coming in off Shawnee?
Yes, everything that we purchased with the height of the railroad bridge in mind, so that we can pass
Okay,
with good
perfect.
clearance.
Yeah, because it definitely needs replaced, and I want to make sure people in the arcade and all them businesses can still get, emergency equipment from the fire department. Thank you.
Alderperson
Shadle.
Sellers.
I know that the bridge needs to be repaired, and I've known for many years of just seeing it and then just walking that path that they have there. But I guess my biggest concern is that, now we can always find money for, we got great ideas of finding money for other different things, which it needs to be repaired. But people that elected me, their biggest concerns was our streets. We never once talk about our streets. As always, we don't have the funding. I know the bridge needs to be fixed for more than just the fire trucks, but the emergency and people getting back and forth home and different things. And I do think that it needs to be done. But I am so tired of just hearing about things that don't affect the people that voted for me we don't put it on the floor. And that's my biggest concern, is always we can find millions and millions for Graham to have another bid, but we can't find anything to get our streets so people can drive up and down safe. They need a safe drive home also. So that's my biggest thing. I do know it needs to be done, but I do think that we need to start bringing some of those things to the table also. I'm sorry if I was out of place.
One more. I'm just wondering now, with the condition that you just showed us on that bridge, and there is semis that actually run over the bridge for all them businesses. We're seeing cases that one of them semis get the bridge collapsed. You see all over the country where roads are collapsing and that bridge, we don't want someone to get killed and have it collapse, so. And them businesses do run semis over it, so.
Alderman Shadle,
Alderman
I would just like to say, I totally agree with you. But I'm saying, how long have you been an alderperson? And this just now coming up? That bridge should have been done years ago. So don't make it look like it needs to be, that is top, I understand, and I do say fix it, because it is scary. But I'm just saying, we also need to start talking about the issues that people elected me to be right here and talk about.
Manager Boyer, could you elaborate on that a little bit, that this is not something that just came up? It's came up to the meeting tonight, from what I understand, because there's a limitation on some grant money that if we let this go too much further, but I do believe this has been talked about and in the works. It's nothing that just has come up. We've been trying to figure out how to pay for this for some time.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, we have been working on this for quite a while, but I'd like to call Darren Stekel up to kind of go over some of the details regarding the funding and kind of where we've been and where we're going with it.
Yeah, thank you. We've been working on the Hancock Bridge portion since Randy became city manager. We identified that there was issues with the bridge, and I'm sorry? 4 years ago, approximately. We've known it's been degrading. The bridge load ratings thus far have been adequate enough for us to look for funding. Last year in '22, we were able to work with IDOT to get almost $1.6 million towards this project, which the city could not afford to move this project forward without any funding. So last year, when we got the commitment from IDOT to help with the special bridge fund money, which is only 4 bridges, that's when we budgeted money for design to try to move this project forward. We did have to do a independent load rating last year due to the degradation that was shown on the screen. That was done in the fall of '22, and it shows that the bridge is at the lowest rating possible right now before we would either have to reduce traffic, reduce the speed, or reduce the weight. So that's why we're in this 12 to 15-month cycle. And just like to say that we actually tried to move this project forward at the beginning of the year, but with the new council coming, the city decided to allow this to wait until afterwards because it would take a full year to design, and we didn't want to push it forward until we had a new council seated, so it was a decision that would be made at this point. It is a very long process with IDOT. So again, even if we started it tomorrow, it would take a minimum of 12 months to move this project forward. The money is locked in, but it is locked in through the fiscal year 24 for this project. We think we're pretty well versed in what needed on this project, and I also worked with IDOT to, a bridge of this age, very few times will they allow a complete rehabilitation of the project. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna ask for it to be totally replaced due to the age, but we've asked for a variance in that to try to save Freeport money, because as Rob pointed out, the company would have to elevate it 8 feet, take the roads all the way back to the 75. We would have to stretch it out almost down to FS, which is an unaffordable project, and we will not get any special bridge funds to help with that project like we have now. So that is the current case. It is very fortunate that we qualify for the special bridge funds to allow us to help with this project, but the special bridge funds require an 80-20 match towards the project. Any questions?
Chair.
Uh,
I'd be glad to answer.
Alderman Stacy.
Yes. How many phases is it to this project?
One.
One phase? Okay, so what about all the viaducts and everything else that has got to also happen?
So the city only owns 3 bridge structures, and one of them is drivable, which is the Hancock Bridge, and the other 2 is the Gladewood Bridge, which is only pedestrian right now, and the other bridge is the Jane Addams Trail Bridge off of the back of Van Buren. Those are the only city-owned structures right now. Van Buren is not considered an IDOT structure any longer because it has been off the rolls when it was turned to a bike path. So that's not something we inspect it annually to make sure it's safe for pedestrians, but it's not something that the city would spend money on. The Park Bridge in Reed Park is the actual Parks Bridge. It's not the city's bridge.
Okay, I'm just talking about Hancock. What are the other things that have to take place that's gonna correspond with the bridge?
So in order to rehabilitate the bridge and take it out of service, we have to come up with a plan to lower the pavement structure around the Hancock Bridge to get it to 14'6" so we can permanently have semi-traffic through that corridor. Currently is at 11'5" and is not traversable for most semi-traffic. So that is not a phase that's in this project because that cannot be sponsored by IDOT, only the bridge work can be.
Alderman Stacy.
Okay, so what I'm asking is what all has to happen that the grant money don't cover?
Just the design portion. The 1.5 million should cover the construction portion of the project.
But we also have to drop the road so many feet. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you talk about that?
I can, it's only a preliminary concept at this point because we have to get the bridge moving, but yes, that's not part of this project. The viaduct project cannot coincide with the bridge project. It actually has to happen before we take the bridge down. So we're working on the most economical concept of how we can lower that pavement structure to allow 14'6" traffic underneath the viaduct permanently.
Okay, so I understand you to be saying that the structure that needs to happen for the viaduct, around the viaduct, under the viaduct, has to happen before the bridge really.
Correct.
Okay, so where are the specs on that?
We don't have that done yet. Because that's a local project. That's something that we can move forward quickly within this. This is a 12 to 15 month approval process for IDOT just for the bridge. It's 2 different projects because it's 2 different funding sources. The funding source for the viaduct would be local funds, and the source for the funding for the bridge would be IDOT funds, special bridge funds.
Okay, I'm sorry. When you say local funds, what does that mean?
Local community, city of Freeport funds, in order to lower that pavement structure, that will have to be done with local funding from local streets, local funding from the municipality.
So the people have got to come up with more money.
If we want to lower that structure,
It's not if, because it has to be lowered.
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair?
If you could, please, something.
Yeah,
Been waiting a while.
yeah, I've been, absolutely.
Can I make one comment before maybe to answer a
Now I
question?
have to wait again, go ahead.
Sorry. We have no choice but to work on the viaduct at Hancock due to the fact that the bridge is not large enough to do one lane at a time to keep it open. It could not safely be built.
Right.
That's why Rob in his report showed that it would actually be done for a full 9 months in order to construct or rehabilitate the bridge. You will not have any traffic over that bridge.
I understand it has to be done, just like the bridge has to be done. But what I don't understand is the hidden agendas. We should have had something explaining that just like this. And we don't. And it's like it's kind of slipped in, but not really explained because it's not ready yet.
No, ma'am, it's not.
And it should have been ready with this or before now.
We can certainly get it ready, but that will delay the process on this project because this is such a long design process to get done. This is one of the longest design processes in all of engineering to get a bridge structure engineered.
But what you're asking us is to take a vote on something or commit to something, a second part, if you will, when we don't even know what the first part looked like, what it consists of, or what it's going to even cost. That's,
Alderman Sanders had a comment, please.
Well, I concur with everything she just talked about, and it is true. We're not doing an efficient job in terms of getting the body, the CAL, to collectively understand the process of your inspections and how it became a priority. Why is it so late as a priority to attend to? That we should have been gathering data information to determine where we should be right now at this current time, long before you brought this into play or the city manager bringing this to our attention. She's right. We have not done the necessary work to keep us informed and up to date about the necessary problems that we are incurring right now at this moment. And if that is the case, we got to do a better job. We just got to do a better job because I'm sitting over here listening to this in a stunned facial recognition part of my whole continent. So I'm like, why are we acknowledging this? And we've been talking about other priorities, finding fundings for other special projects that our citizens have been crying for years about. Why all of a sudden now we're listening to the reconstruction or the construction repairs of the Hancock Bridge? Something gets prioritized, and the funding should be ready at all times to submit to whatever the projects that we're talking about as a community. We've been talking about priorities for a long time, but there are selective priorities that gets picked. And I'd like to know, I like to be in on it. I'd like to know when this is coming up and why is it coming up at certain times of the year. We have not had clarity since the day that we came here when it comes to things that was already in motion or already that was planned. And so my concern is there needs to be a change in the process so we can understand much better why we're here trying to find fundings for projects that we can't find for others. You know, that's what I got a litany of things to talk about in that regards, but I'm a yield.
I'd like to respond to that before we move on.
Good.
So as you'll see in the fiscal year budget for this year, this was not pre-planned. That's why it was budgeted for in this fiscal year, because the council, the city manager, the directors knew that this expense was coming. We were discussing this over a year ago, just at the council level, so that's why some of the seated people are well aware of this project. So it wasn't just brought to light. We also are trying to make an alternate source into that area because of the businesses that are over there. Again, we're a year away from, a minimum of a year away from construction. We're trying to make alternate plans to allow the businesses that we have over there, Modern Plating, Inertia, FS, the wastewater treatment plant, and Consolidated Grain, be able to operate and become viable businesses so they don't leave our community. The bridge has been degrading for over 50 years. It's not a new issue. So respectfully, it was planned, and we did cover this at the council introduction meeting about the Hancock Bridge coming to fruition this season.
Are you speaking
Alderperson
about
Stacy?
at orientation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, there was a lot discussed at orientation in a very short time.
Yeah.
However, you said that you all have been looking at this, you have known it needed to happen since Deputy Bucus came.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, and I think you came back later and said 4 years. Okay, so the phase one part that has to happen before the bridge can even happen is yet to be completed, but you've known this for over 4 years.
That is correct.
And what's the holdup on that being completed?
The city hasn't had any funding to perform the designs before we budgeted in this fiscal cycle, so we couldn't advance any of the projects.
And we have funding now?
We budgeted funding for this project in this fiscal year. Yes, ma'am.
For the dropping of
For the design of the bridge, which will take 12 to 15 months.
That's,
I'm talking about the phase before the bridge, that you said had to happen before the bridge can happen.
We started preliminary concepts just this spring on dropping the road, yes, and we don't have it completed yet because we have to work with CN Railway to be able to do that work, and they're a very difficult entity to work with because they actually control the space of the viaduct. That is not a city-owned structure, that's a CN-owned structure. We own the pavement structure and the utilities under it, but they have a permanent easement to control the space. And I have been working with them since the beginning of the year to make this happen, and it's not an easy process with them.
So we can sign or vote or commit to this,
Yes, ma'am?
and it still can't happen till all the other stuff.
Correct, but in the meantime, it gives you time to get this designed, the 12 to 15 months, and it secures the funding to be able to move this project forward when we can get an agreement with CN to do the work at the viaduct, which we're trying to look for the most economical option to get that done to minimize the cost to the city.
Are we gonna get approval?
Yes, ma'am, we will get approval. It's just a matter of how long that will take. We've already got a commitment from them. We are designing the structure to reinforce the viaduct wall to be able to lower the pavement. The utilities, we were just out there today and dipped them, and they're deep enough for us to lower the pavement structure. But again, we have to have CN structural sign-off to be able to do any work because they have a permanent easement and they own the railway space. That is their space, not ours.
And this lowering structure will be from where to
We will
where?
not lower the structure will stay. We will be lowering the pavement 3 feet to accommodate a 14-foot 6 semi under the rail.
The pavement under the viaduct, but it will start from how far?
Probably back to on the south side, we'll have to go back to the intersection of Shawnee And we may have to go back to the intersection of, I believe it's Arcade, where the Y comes together. We'll have to start lowering the pavement at that point to be able to ramp down to the space under the viaduct, yes.
My goodness.
And do you have any idea what this is gonna cost?
I can give you a ballpark, that's all I know. I'm gonna estimate somewhere, based on the knowledge that I have, somewhere around $300,000 to probably lower that pavement structure permanently.
Does,
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Clem.
This bridge has been talked about for years and years and years. And if you'll remember, there's been some stuff done to it in the past, very little, but you also remember a number of years ago was also hit by a car, which didn't help the structure whatsoever. There are 3 or 4 businesses that this is a total lifeline for. During the season that it floods, they cannot get equipment in and out, have no alternate way. The part that's being talked about is underneath the viaduct. There's also another part by inertia that goes around the back side, but that also takes railroad approval or something back there, doesn't it?
Inertia
through.
owns that property, the city
Okay.
does not, so we do not have access to that crossing. Some of the businesses have worked with Inertia to have access
Sure.
to there, but the city will never gain access to that area as a permanent replacement. Plus, that's only a single stall structure, so there's no two-way traffic there, so there's no available funding that we'd ever be able to use at that, what we're gonna call a private structure entrance.
Okay. Keep in mind that for years, the emphasis was on Gladewood Bridge, Gladewood Bridge, Gladewood Bridge, Gladewood Bridge. We spent a whole bunch of money in it, got the thing designed, this and that. Guess what? Isn't gonna happen.
after,
You know, now that's a big shock for some people.
yeah.
But it was a very controversial issue. The issue there is it'd have to be built up 10 feet, similar to the way the Hancock Bridge would be. But if you take a look at this, what they're asking for is funding to go ahead and develop the plans to get additional funding to make the bridge work. The rest of them, meanwhile, they'll be working on to take and lower the situation so it'll all work. It's a process that takes, it doesn't happen overnight. Is this a surprise to you guys? Yes, somewhat. There's no doubt about that, okay? But is it a surprise to the other members on the council that have been here? The answer to that's no, because Hancock Bridge, the importance of it and the use of it is very critical to the city of Freeport, without a doubt.
Alderman Sanders, did you have something?
Well, after Dr. Clem,
Thank you.
he threw that big monkey wrench in that thing.
I'd also like to point out, so when we did, or the city did budgeting and we assisted them, the current design platform is $100,000 less than we budgeted because we budgeted money in there to do the actual design for the viaduct. So that it was anticipated that we'd have to do that. But if we don't get the bridge design going with the way the IDOT process was, we'll never be ready in 2024. We've already delayed this, honestly, I'm gonna say about 6 months longer than our firm felt comfortable doing, but we did it in order to bring that to the new council and not try to push it through prior to a council turnover.
So,
Okay, council hasn't been educated on this engineering projects that you guys are contemplating on doing or want to do. But the thing that gets me still is I understand the process of what you guys are going through, but the timing of a lot of things that the council is really catching up to for other things and other ideas that we had planned for this year and next year, the next 3-4 years or whatever. I can see this funding that is allotted or designated to help Fair and Graham to strategize, set up the structure or the architectural plans of these projects, that they just came in and supersede all the other projects that we have already learned about. We should have been informed initially about the whole thing, so we'll be caught up to date today about the things you're talking about. Because right now, some of it is a little confusing to me because I'm trying to figure out where this budget is, and I need the ledgers of all of our budgets first of all, anyway. But the thing about it is, we got to see what the budgets are asking for. You know, how much money we're spending here. Re-look at this thing. We need to take a very hard look at it before we start dumping monies in places that jobs years ago that should have been taken care of because they had been funded years ago, the planning operations of all of the structures that we're talking about today. Those plans been in effect for years, maybe decades, you know, and now we're trying to catch up on some other thoughts of ideas that Fair and Graham trying to propose on these structure failures, defects, and all that. The timing just seems so wrong to me. That's what I'm saying. You know, I just can't see that we're coming up to fruition at this point in time when the community, the city, of the people are complaining about one thing and we can't accomplish that. And so now we're looking forward to trying to prioritize funds for projects that it wouldn't hurt. I know it's a risk factor. I'm very stickler about risk factors and the possibilities of things happening. But sometimes you have to put things on the back burner, just like we've been doing for the last decades, to get what the people of the city wants to have done. And we know what that is, and we act like it's not an elephant in the room, but we don't talk about it. But that's not good enough. But I'm saying that's not good enough, and I'm complaining about the fact that how things get shifted around to be first priorities, and that shouldn't happen. And we need to revisit, have us to take a clear look at things, and then let us make an assessment, a clear assessment about what we're doing and why we're doing it at certain times in our schedules. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying eliminate the projects, but I'm saying what is getting first priorities and what the people of the city has been enduring for years now. And it look like we're going to pass another year or maybe two to get anything started with the projects that we had already had in mind. You know, that's what I'm saying. Something just getting pushed aside.
Respectfully, nothing's been pushed aside because this project was actually slated in the budget for this year to design while we found the IDOT funding last year to be able to fund this project. There was no funding prior to do the structure. That's why it wasn't addressed before. And your final concern on why it's come to fruition now is because of the IDOT rating that was done last fall put the bridge at poor condition. The poor condition triggers the replacement and or rehabilitation of the project. That means that we're either going to have to reduce the weight, reduce the traffic, or reduce the speed. One of those three things is going to happen at that bridge in the course of time. And only God himself knows when that's going to happen because we can't stop the corrosion that's already happening at the bridge. So it is in a mode that it's not failing yet, but it is close to failure. And even with a 15-month design period, if it took 15 months, we would not construct this in 2024. This would be a 2025 project because they're not going to start a bridge in the middle of the winter. So again, I want to emphasize nothing in this process is raced. If you choose not to approve this, it will be delayed even longer, but that bridge could be closed eventually. It will be a load rating because it's a poor condition, it has to be evaluated every fall, and we will have to identify it as a city, but IDOT will actually identify it, and they will determine whether the load rating is done. And once that's done, those businesses have no semi-access. And that's really, businesses met with the city last year and informed them that if we don't address the structure, they're leaving town. So this is a priority project to make sure that these businesses are secured on that side of the bridge. And I want to remind everybody, the bridge structure is part of the streets program. It is part of the streets. It's a street. It's just going across the river. It is a street program project. And again, I've been around here for a long time. This project's been discussed for over 5 years, but there was no funding up until last year that was available for this of $1.6 million, best deal for this bridge.
Alderperson Stacy.
I'm appalled that you said this was saved for this council. With everything that was pushed through before we were seated, apparently this should have been at the top of the list with everything else that happened when it happened. Alderman Clem, I understand the shape of the bridge. I'm not blind. I saw the pictures. It's clear. I'm just saying, we need to see the whole picture, not just a little portion. And since it was budgeted for this year, how much budget do we have to drop the streets or to pay for that 300?
The Hancock Bridge portion was in this year's budget, and we put some design budget in that as well for the lowering. We don't have a preliminary cost estimate yet because we're not far enough along. So any price that we could give you would just be a guesstimate at this point because we haven't had enough time to do the preliminary concept on it.
So
That's
we-
why it wasn't brought together, because I can't bring you an IDOT project and a local project at the same time under the same resolution. That's
Okay.
not something that we can do.
So we don't know what the local project is gonna cost us. The funding that we're getting for this 2 million project is only 1.6 million. So we're gonna have to make up that difference.
Yeah, the 20% match is required. The design fees were scheduled in the streets budget for this year because IDOT will require us to design that bridge. It's a city-owned bridge. It's not an IDOT-owned structure. So that is our responsibility as the city.
I understand that.
Alderman Sanders.
Pass to you, because right now, after all that, I lost train of thought.
Okay, Alderman Sellers.
I would just like to say that we know that the bridge has to be done. We know all the safety issues and all those things. But I guess what I'm saying is that what gets me is that we get information bit by, and then I think there's agitation because we ask the questions on that. That's what I don't like, because if I know, then I'm cool. But if I don't know, I'm not gonna vote on something I don't know about. My name is on that. So that's why we ask the questions. It's not that we're being harsh or we're being mean to anybody. It's that if my reputation is out on something, when I walk out that door, I want people to did what I did. And if I don't know, I can't vote. So that's what I think my problem is. I know that bridge needs to be done. I've seen it. I've walked by it on the trail. So I'm just saying that we need that other half, because we don't want to be caught with the community coming saying, you voted for this and now we got to pay for that. I don't want to hear that. I like peace too, So I'm just saying that if we can get the information that we need so that we can answer the questions that people might ask us, that's all we're asking. Is not to be caught up with, oh, this is the Hancock Bridge, but under the table there's a whole bunch. No, I'm not going out like that. So that's all I'm asking for is respect on when you bring me something, bring it all to me so I can understand. Call a special meeting. We've had those before on certain things. Yeah. Let us know and get the information so that when people talk to us and they hear about it, we're able to tell them what they want to hear, because that's who I work for. That's what we all work for, is the people out there. So that's why I want a better clarification. So don't take it personally. Please, nobody. I'm just trying to get the answers for the people so I don't have to keep getting calls.
And I understand that, and I can appreciate that. My issue is that this isn't a typical, the viaduct is not a typical city-owned structure that Fairgram, as your engineer, has the ability to control the project and hold out. With CN, there's such a variable here due to the factor. Most railway projects take many, many years to complete, and we are trying to short cycle this so we can do what's best for Freeport in the interim. And I'm also trying to get CN to cost share the project with us. So it may take more than a few months to be able to actually get a final number on what that's going to cost. That's not an easy process. Anybody that's dealt with the railroad knows that they are very full in control. So that's why I'm hesitant to give you an exact number, because I have approached them about cost sharing the portion of the abutment reinforcement that will need to be done to lower the structure to save money to the taxpayers.
Mr. Chair. Alderman Parker.
Okay, one thing I want to say is, our number one complaint that all of us alder people get is the roads. And they've been neglected for years. It's not any fault of anybody here, but the one thing they complain, now we have an opportunity to get maybe ahead of a real major problem and get that planning, and I don't want that to add to their list of saying that we just blew that off too. Let's give Eric Fairgram the respect, Rob the respect. Let's get this bridge taken care of, and this is only the planning stage, and it is in the budget, so I think we need to move forward with it. Thank you.
One other point, and Rob and I have talked this at length, we plan to have a streets committee of the whole a meeting where we actually take time to go back over the streets, the street program, what's annually going on with the street program. We were going to do that at a COW meeting because that's more than a resolution presentation, and it has to be something that there's not a lot of other cows on, because it's going to take a lot of time to digest the street program. There's a lot going on with it. There's a lot that goes on with the funding, the different funding sources for roads, and it's going to need a lot of focus to actually understand how the road program works and where the funding comes from and how far we can stretch our miles. So that is something that we've kicked around a date to do, but we haven't had a date so far that the meetings haven't been very full to perform that.
Okay,
Alderperson Sanders.
okay. After listening to some of the recommendations, I concur with some of the things that I have been hearing. But what I have a problem with is the whole subject, first of all. And I think we need a review of everything that we have been missing and then some before we make any decisions, because I'm like most of these guys. I don't want to sign my name against something with my constituents like crying about the very things that we are talking about here in this chamber. And so I want to make sure that we can give answers. Right now, it's at a confusion state of why we're limited to certain information and data information to share with our constituents, to give them an idea of what is going on, because they're clueless, just like we're sitting here in this council. And that should never happen. But the point of the matter is we need a review to see if there needs to be a revisement. And I expect the respect of everyone, not to be so hasty to trying to move this thing forward until we have a clear view of understanding. If we're not clear on something, we're not just going to go shred our votes out there as if though we understood what was going down the pipe. No, that's too much integrity to just throw out the door. And we have that here, but we're just not playing it, prioritizing it right or planning it right or something. We need to do a review to update everyone, to bring everyone to the point of understanding. And I think we deserve that, and we should let that happen.
Alderperson Stacy.
We keep talking about Hancock being the only way these trucks can come in. What's wrong with coming down Adams or making a right on Liberty and coming across the bridge on Stevenson to still get to your destinations?
The viaduct's only 11'5". Large vehicles cannot make it under 11'5". So if the bridge is out of service, they can't come. They can't enter into that area. That's why the fire department had to buy special equipment to get under the viaduct.
You're still talking about Hancock.
Yeah, we're talking about the area where you're talking, you can get across the river on Stevenson, but that doesn't get you to modern plating. The Hancock Bridge gets you to modern plating and inertia, the
Consolidated Grain probably
There's
during the truck season probably
section
has
between where the
50,
viaduct
60
is
semis a day
Right.
pulling grain in there.
There's
That's
only
their
that
only
grain.
access point.
So it's just the bridge, it wouldn't be the viaduct that would stop it from the Stevenson route, but the bridge.
yes.
Mr. Chair?
Alderperson Clem.
Yes, I'd like to take and make a motion to move this to the next meeting so we can take and get additional information if it's needed.
Second.
Is Manager Boyer, is that gonna throw a wrench in the time frame on this?
I think if it suits council to wait till the next council meeting so they have a chance to review information, I don't see a real concern there.
Okay. We have a motion to move this to the next scheduled council meeting.
I think Cece had something, I believe.
Alderperson Stacy.
I'm sorry, I just, want to ask the question. If and when everything is to happen, Lord's will, how many years is it gonna take to complete everything? Viaduct, bridge, everything. I don't wanna hear 12 to 15 months if it's gonna take 5, 6, 7 years. How long are we looking at for this whole entire project to be completed? And I don't care who answers.
About 18 months. The bridge alone will take 9 months from start to finish, but that means closing it and closing it to traffic. The abutment issues at lowering, that's probably a 2-month project, once the design's approved by CN. So it's not a big construction.
Alderperson.
So I would say, not to repeat you, but 12 to 15 months.
Alderperson Sellers.
I just have one question. I know we had talked about these different companies that this will affect.
Yes.
Have they offered to help in any kind of way with the city, seeing the struggles that the city is also going through? They haven't offered to help us in any kind of way with this,
Not the
the
responsibility.
bill?
To my knowledge, no, but they did have a meeting of the business owners last year there with the city. I don't remember, it was summer, and those, maybe Randy can help me. I believe those businesses issued the city a demand letter notice that they expected the bridge to be repaired and/or brought up to date so they can function as a business, or their intent was to look for another place to move to. And I think that's a pretty accurate depiction. If those people can't operate between, I think we did an ADT on the trucks there when Consolidated's in their heavy season. I believe they get an average of 60, 65 trucks a day, semis going across there. I believe Modern Plating gets in the neighborhood of 25 trucks per day. Those are the counts that we got out of them, and Modern's trying to expand, so they expect that to go up.
Maybe we need to do an ordinance.
If I could, we have a motion to, on the floor to move this to the next council meeting so there could be some more homework done. Do I have a second on that?
So move. Second.
Thank you. Do we need a voice vote, or we'll just move that on?
I think a voice vote would be fine for the procedural motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that passes. We'll move that to the next,
What would be the expectation of what the council wants to see for the next meeting? Because that's something we're gonna need to know.
Alderperson Simmons.
One thing I can say off the top of my head is that I would like to know what considerations would be taken for the residents between Stevenson and Hancock, because there's a bridge that runs across or a railroad track that runs across the Stevenson Street Bridge, which sometimes shuts down that bridge, so that will be an access point for emergency vehicles. But if they can't come that way, they would have to go around Hancock. And if with the bridge being shut down for 9 months, that's 9 months with only one access point that is many times shut off because the trains stop there for quite a few minutes. So that's what I want to see. What is the plan of action for that?
Which is fine. Typically, we communicate daily with the police and fire departments, so they're aware of emergency type responses to the areas that are closed. And Deputy Chief Stekel and Police Chief, they notify all their deputies and all the people on staff, and they make emergency planning to get to those areas daily. There's a daily communication blast that goes out for Public Works to notify everybody in the city department, so they're aware of it.
And if I could, I want to say back in the day when I was involved with the police department that the access point to that would be out 26 to Henderson and back in that way. But if you'd like to elaborate more, Deputy Chief Stekel.
Thank you, Chairman Shale. We have some alternative plans that we implement. Right now, we have a notification system, and we have for years when a train, has stopped and it's a long train and we can't go that way. For that purpose, we're notified through dispatch and we go down under the viaduct. But we also have, it's a little longer, but in the event of the circumstance that you're talking about, we also have a way that we can go north on 26 and we can come across and down Henderson and into that area as well. So it is an alternative means. It is that if the railroad track is blocked at the Stevenson Street Bridge. So it is a secondary way.
Did you have something else?
Yes, I did. I was raising my hand like I
Alderman
was.
Sellers, go ahead.
I'm sorry. When you say that, how about the people that live in the arcade? Because there's only one way in and one way out. So how will we do the viaduct first and then, okay.
That's the
Yeah, because
plan.
I was gonna say there's,
Or that would be the plan, depending
Okay.
on what we can get worked out with CN.
Oh, okay.
We can physically not take the bridge down and move forward with that project until we know what we can do with the viaduct. That, but again, that's a local project, so we can move that along much swifter than we can do on the IDOT bridge replacement.
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Can I say something real quick?
Alderman Sanders.
Just for the sake of options and alternatives, have we looked at the possibility of extending the bridge over the Hancock Pecatonica site for more leverage, for travel safety, for heavy equipment vehicles and things like that? Have we looked at any other possible foundations that could extend the bridge to make sure that it's culpable for traveling across it?
We have done the due diligence on the existing structure, and there is no other cost alternative that will be as cheap as rehabilitating the bridge in place that it is now. Again, in the presentation, it was rated that if we have to replace this bridge under any other method other than rehabilitation, it will be in excess of $10 million because that structure will need to be replaced. That is the alternative. There is, the Peck River is a floodway, so there is no other alternative other than a bridge. We can't, Army Corps will not let us build anything within the floodway, the waterway, any other structure other than a bridge. And we actually modeled the Hancock area where the bridge is, and we're basically asking very aggressively to IDOT to just allow us to be able to do the rehab without spending the large amount on the large bridge. That is the alternate.
Who is the designated contractor?
We don't have one. This will go to a bid process
In the
once
bid
it's designed, which would be sometime late next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Next item on the agenda would be approval of the bid open.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Crack sealing is a maintenance technique used to secure new street pavement structures to stop water infiltration from penetrating cracks in pavement and improving the life and sustainability of the street structure. Streets should be crack-filled, sealed within 5 years of paving. The Albertus Airport tarmac is in serious need of crack repair, or the pavement structure will deteriorate and need replacement sooner than expected. Current gaps range from 2 inch to 5 inches wide and run the length of the tarmac area. This is a specialized repair for pavement cracks this large. The city has had bid openings, the city's had bid openings to address various minor cracks on streets that have been asphalt paved in the last 5 years, and also the Albertus tarmac issues. Bids were received from 3 companies for the work following the IDOT motor fuel tax process. 3 bids were received from Complete Asphalt Services Co., SKC Construction Inc., and Denler Inc. Please see the bid tab results attached. Funding for this project is through the City of Freeport Motor Fuel Tax Fund, and staff recommends awarding MFT contract 23-00000-03-GM to SKC Construction Inc. for the low bid of $118,863.96. Our engineering consultant has worked with SKC Construction before and is confident that they can perform the work without issue. Responsible and efficient government prioritize the investment in the city's street infrastructure for long-term sustainability and reliability. Approval of this proposal provides necessary resources to maintain these streets so that they extend the useful life of the pavement structures.
Madam Chair?
Alderman Clem.
Excuse me for swearing at you, I'm sorry. I would make a motion to move this forward. This has been done in the past at different spots. If you'll go down American Street, Walnut Street, Stevenson Street Road, they were all done in the past when Engineer Gallagher was here, and it is a good thing to take care of these before they crack out and give us real problems.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Clem and a second by Alderman Parker. Did you have a comment, Alderman Stacy?
What street are we talking about?
The streets that I mentioned were just ones that had been done before. After we redid the streets, then we went back in a couple years later and seal coated them and also crack filled them. So I'm just basically saying to you that there's nothing new to this that hasn't been done in the city before, correct?
Okay, but I'm asking for this approval. What streets are we speaking of?
Manager Boyer.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to have Darren go over the inventory.
So, crack seal can only be performed on streets that have been paved in the last 5 years. So anything that has not been paved in the last 5 years, crack seal will not help. So the streets that we're looking at is Empire, I believe Countryside, Barley Ridge, Welty Hills, the west portion that was paved last year, and then the Pecatonic or the Pearl City bike trail that's cracking. The airport is a totally separate project because that's a specialized crack fill, as Rob mentioned, and that will save the tarmac. The tarmac is in really poor shape and has very large cracking, and if we don't address it, the tarmac will need replacement in the near future. So those are the main areas. This bid was $200,000 under estimate.
Thank you.
Yep. And as you'll see, the bid is set up as a linear foot. So we only pay for the cracks that they fill. You don't pay for the whole street. You pay for the actual length that they fill, and it's measured that way.
Alderperson Stacy.
And where is this money coming from?
It comes from the motor fuel tax money. as a maintenance item.
And so it's like all our streets that's jacked up are older than 5 years. And so the money still get put in the more recent other areas. And 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, 7th Ward,
First ward. Add it too. It's bad.
excuse me,
I said add first ward too.
1st Ward, 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, 7th Ward, we continue to have to do without. It's like the rich get richer. I mean, you were just out on Marvin's Lane fixing their roads. I'm just, I don't know what to say.
Manager Boyer.
I would just like to highlight a couple things. There's been recent road resurfacing projects in all the wards. And next week, we are going to commence on a $10 million reconstruct of Adams Avenue. So that is roughly 5 times the rest of the city's entire road reconstruction budget that will be used on Adams Avenue.
Manager Boyer, $118,800 for the bid. What would that get us in a resurfacing?
I'd say about 2,000 feet of 27-foot road width.
5 blocks?
No.
Thank you. Alderperson Stacy.
Mr. Boyer, City Manager Boyer, I understand that the project on Adams Street is supposed to get started real soon. However, that real soon was extended 1 year, 2 year, and I hope we do. But proof is in the pudding.
I'll interject there. We just received the last verification from EPA today, and we will send that back there tomorrow, and we can issue the notice to proceed to Helm Group tomorrow. So Adams Avenue will move forward. We've already been working on the construction engineering plans with them and the shop drawing reviews for structures.
Alderperson Stacy.
I accept that. I'm glad to hear that. But I also want to say Adams Street is just one street.
Agreed.
Did we have a motion?
I have a motion by Clem, second by Parker.
Well, hold up on that motion, because I had,
Alderperson Sanders.
yeah, I had a question. When does, okay, the projects that you guys are involved in with the city, at this current time, can we be brought up to date on what the status is of all of the projects, recommendations, reviews, and things of that nature? Can we have that kind of in a little packet kind of thing so we can keep it in our notebooks?
Manager Boyer, can I answer that, please?
Alderman, I'd do one better. It was in the last newsletter. All the projects were listed there in the back under the Public Works section.
And you're talking about the ones that come out?
Yes.
But I'm saying, what if you don't look at them? Then what, how do you know what's going on?
I'll make sure I print it off and hand it to the Alderman.
Okay, we have a motion, you said by
Clem,
Clem and
second by Parker.
second by Parker for the approval of the bid. Should we call the roll on that?
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
No.
Clem,
Aye.
Simmons,
This is for the roads and the airport. We're combining as one vote. I just want to make sure I'm doing that.
Yes, it's a crack filling program for both.
So if we want to separate, I will have to bring another motion, but we already have a motion.
We can't separate it, it's bid as one package.
I'm gonna have to abstain from voting on this.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4 yeses, 2 noes, 2 abstentions. The motion passes. That can't be right because we don't have 8 people. 1, 2,
Madam Clerk, this is a resolution for the expenditure of funds. We need 5 votes.
it's a bid. It's not a resolution. No different.
It's public.
1,
works bids
2,
require
3, 4 ayes, 2 noes. Oh, only 1 abstention. That gets 7. Okay. Attorney, 4, 2, 1.
5. That fails.
And that fails.
Okay, item 14 would be reports from the department heads, finance,
Nothing this evening.
community development.
I just want to take a moment to congratulate Deputy City Manager Bucas on his final meeting. Congratulations. I just wanted to say that I've learned from you and your meetings, admired you, and finally, thank you for taking the time in your reports to acknowledge my accomplishments. So I wanted to take a moment and congratulate you on your final meeting.
Deputy City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really originally wasn't going to say anything, but I think I will. I think I'll put my foot in my mouth at the same time. It's been a pleasure working for the city for the last 6 years. It's been a pleasure working in local government for the last 46 years. What hasn't been a pleasure is watching what's happened to our nation and our community here, and the fact that we can't discuss things, we can't talk to one another, we can't reason. We seems like it's either our way or the highway, and that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate, both as a nation and as a community here, because this is a great nation and this is a great city. There's got a lot of good things going for it, and we have to work together to make sure that things continue to move forward, and we can't be obstructionists just because we want to be obstructionists. I'd like to thank my staff that I had a pleasure to work with for the last 3 years as the city manager, and for the 6 years with the city and as overall. I appreciate their support. I appreciate the support of the community that I received as we were moving forward and doing the different projects that we had on the plans, and the fact that we do have plans to continue moving forward, and I hope that the city does. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, all my department heads for, I can't say my department heads anymore, they're Rob's department heads now, my colleagues, in helping me make my job a lot easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything for Public Works?
We had received our final notification for the EPA that we can move forward with Adams Avenue. So kind of stole my thunder earlier, but we're excited. I believe we'll be breaking ground next week or being very close to that next week. So
Thank you. Fire Department?
Thank you, Council. Filling in for Chief Miller, a report from events this past 24 hours, actually. Shortly before 6 a.m. this morning, the fire department personnel was dispatched to Hosmer Housing High Rise for reports of fire on the 12th floor. The fire was contained to a hallway area, but resulting smoke conditions resulted in the need to evacuate multiple residents from the 12th, 13th, and 14th floors as smoke travels up. 2 individuals were treated for smoke inhalation at the scene and required subsequent transportation to FHNER for further evaluation. As of our last report, they have been admitted, but are doing okay. The fire remains under investigation at this time. Additionally, today our department's ambulances received their annual state inspections. These inspections are required and are done by representatives of the Illinois Department of Public Health and are to ensure that all EMS apparatus within the state of Illinois are properly equipped and staffed. And I'm pleased to inform you that all of our units passed. Finally, I'm happy also to inform you that our newest recruits, Daniel Doyle, Alex Gravenstein, and Tanner Knott, will be graduating from the Romeoville Fire Academy this coming Sunday afternoon. They joined us in mid-April, and we only saw them for about a week, so we're going to have to all get reacquainted. They've been attending Academy for the past 9 weeks and have represented both our department and our city well. We've been getting a lot of great reports from there, and they'll be joining their respective shifts beginning next week. That's the report from the fire department.
Thank you. Police?
Yeah, I just want to talk about something that was put out on social media earlier today. We had an issue with our office phones at the police department, but I just want to clarify that it does not affect 911 calls coming in to the dispatch center or the calls coming into the 235-8222 number. It's just internally, I couldn't call the extension for the deputy chief or anything like that. It's just the internally, but it doesn't affect any of the calls coming into the dispatch center. So I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Library?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that today was our first day to pick up prizes and for our summer reading program, which we currently have over 400 readers registered, which is we are on par to break all of our records that we set last year, and we have already had over 1,000 attendees for our 2 weeks of programming. And my favorite thing that we've done so far is we made no-sew tie blankets that we're going to be donating to a few of the organizations in and around the city of Freeport. And that includes having at least 50, but probably a little closer to 70 kids throughout the week from the Boys and Girls Club came over to help us do that last week. So it's been
Very
very
good.
successful.
Thank you. Communications? IT? And city managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to echo Wayne Duckman's, Director Duckman's sentiments regarding Randy. He's been an outstanding public administrator, city manager, and many other roles, and I just wish him well and thank him for his mentorship and his guidance of the city of Freeport for the last 3 years. Thank you, Randy.
And we're going to bypass the mayor's report. City council announcements. I have nothing tonight. Alderperson Sanders?
No, I just want to make sure we follow up on all reviews that we've been talking about, and these are the priority, at least talk about the priorities so we can move forward even further. But without talking about them and getting reviews and recommendations cleared, I don't want us to be behind the 8 ball getting things rolling. I want us to continue to move forward. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Alderperson Sellers?
Yes, I would like to say that I sat in on a public hearing, and I just wanted to say how hard our community development department works on going out. What's his name, Doug?
Yes.
Yes. And then what's the other guy's name that sits, what's his name?
It's Mr. Ben Fritz is our building inspector.
Yes, yes. And they do a great job, but I don't feel that we have to find some other way to support them where they don't have to go to these same houses, babysitting these I'm gonna say slumlords that do not want to take care of their property. That has to be hard on them every day, going to these homes and telling these people, you know, clean up or take care of your house or whatever they have to do. That's gotta be a hard job to me. I wouldn't want it. So I say thank you because they do a great job. And Doug, he's on it. And I just want to say thank you for that, but we need to support where they don't have to go out to these same offenders, giving them notices, cut your grass, cut your grass. That shouldn't be their job. Their job is to develop our community. And they can't do that, babysitting these landlords or these homes like that. And I just want to say, I want to support them in any kind of way that they don't have to, whatever we have to change, an ordinance or whatever we have to do, that they don't have to keep doing second, third, fourth offenders going to their houses telling them the same thing over and over, because that has to be hard on them. And they go home every night to their families and their children, and that, I mean, I just couldn't, I tossed and turned from just sitting here at one meeting. So could you imagine them every meeting, every week, taking that in? I wouldn't want to do it. So I think we need to put something out there on the plate, on the ordinance, some kind of way, that these offenders, they don't have to keep going to their homes. It's, if we have to take the taxes, whatever we got to do. But that's hard on them and their children and their families. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Alderman Clem.
Just an echo, Randy, thank you. It's been great working with you. I took a little pause off, but it was a pleasure to meet you the first day at IML a number of years ago, and it's been great for a couple things, because all of us will find out as you're here a period of time, there's nothing more important than to ask for some financial needs that you have on a project or something, and they're always accurate, they're always right, they're always done in a timely manner. Michelle, you do a great job at that, and Randy has over the years. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all your work, Randy.
Thank you. Alderperson Simmons.
No, I don't have anything.
Alderman Parker.
Just echo on that with Randy. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alderperson Stacy.
I just want to say to my constituents that I can't change the world, but I will do my best in keeping you informed of what is happening. Thank you.
Public comments. Tommy? You could state your name, please.
My name is Jeanette. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the item number 5, about the destroying the properties of the abandoned bikes and all of this. Boys and Girls Club don't need used bikes. Just destroy them. That's what you want to do, is hand down hand-me-downs to my community? We don't need them. Destroy them. Moving on. You guys were talking about the pavement in Adams Street reconstruction. Now, I've been doing some research over the weekend, and the mayor, she had an interview on 23 WIFR News, February 8th, 2021, at 8:28 p.m. One of the questions that the news anchor had asked her was, how you think 2020 went for Freeport? She said she cut $1.5 million from the budget last spring, which makes 2019. Where did that money go? That money can't help out on future fundings or things for the bridge? Okay, and my concern is, somebody said something about no semis to the businesses off using the Hancock Bridge. What about the housing? Isn't it a flood zone? How y'all lowering the bridge if it's a flood zone? Isn't the third ward considered a flood zone? Why was the Parkview housing closed? Because of flood zone. But y'all want to put all this money in a bridge? and it's a flood zone, and there's housing over there that people could be living in, but it's a flood zone? Come on, be for real. So you guys have more concern for the businesses in Freeport than you have for the peoples of Freeport, like the housing. And then the cracks that's in the streets. I live over in the 5th Ward, and I can't get in my driveway without running over potholes. And I will be bringing an estimate to the City Hall in regards to getting my car fixed. You drive up and down that street, there's potholes. Not potholes, they're miniature craters in the streets. But I bet your streets don't have them. I bet your street don't have them. I bet a lot of y'all streets don't have them. But ours do. But y'all want to put all this money in the airport here. And then in what streets did you say? Pearl City Road? Pearl City? What Pearl City got to do with Freeport? And then the bridge issues. Isn't the bridge issues because of neglect? Many years of not doing what you guys were supposed to do to the bridge? But now all of a sudden, you guys gonna get a railroad train coming through here, 3rd Ward flooded, but the train coming through.
Your 3 minutes is up, ma'am.
What is the agenda for Freeport? And then I would like.
Your 3 minutes is up, ma'am. We limit to 3 minutes, please.
Okay, it's
And
limited. You
the-
said my 3 minutes.
the limits are up.
Like my 3 minutes has not been up, and I just wanted to.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, please sit down.
You guys.
Ma'am,
have
your
a-
3 minutes are up,
No more comments are accepted.
Reporter by the name of.
Your 3 minutes are up, ma'am.
That works for this company, writes the
Ma'am.
Ma'am, you're out of order at this point.
This is what he said. As for me personally, that I would use my.
Ma'am, I need to ask you to sit down,
being
please.
A white male, college educated, to be unrelenting an ally.
Ma'am,
I am excited for the work yet to come here. So how can this person believe
Ma'am,
like
if
this?
if this continues, we're going to
Ma'am.
ask law enforcement to escort you out.
A law enforcement out of a public place?
yes, ma'am.
You are out of
You're out of order with the 3 minute.
You are out of
Please.
order.
I'm out of order. In a public
You have
place.
an opportunity to speak for
For
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
That is this
Everybody in the
forum. It
community
is
that
has nothing to do with what I
ask
think,
for
ma'am.
More than 3 minutes? That's all you giving the peoples in the community is 3 minutes to speak on
You
their
can-
Ma'am,
well-being?
everyone
You can-
else in the community
You can have,
expects
schedule a
that.
meeting with
Everybody in
Manager
the
Boyer.
community is being respectful, but y'all not being respectful to us. And this Adams Street infrastructure is supposed to have been done in 2022. And here it is, 2023, going into 2024, and it still has
I'm giving you one more
What
chance.
is the problem? I'm gonna sit down before y'all send me to jail over speaking facts. I do my research. There's a lot of stuff goes on about Freeport. Stephen Douglas even wrote the doctrine for Freeport, and that doctrine is full of bull crap. And you want me
Ma'am,
to sit
you-
down?
Yes, ma'am. You need to sit, please.
Why you won't tell Douglas A. Smith to sit down? Take that racist man out of this town. That's what we need to be having a proposal about. Is that racist man that made
We
the
need
racist
to,
doctrine?
we need to take the floor back.
I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna sit down because that's the best thing for me. But I'm not done. If I have to take 3 minutes today, take 3 minutes next week.
Ma'am, did you have something?
3 minutes I need.
Did you have something, please? Tommy likes to go last. Thank you, Tom. State your name, please, and then the 3 minutes.
My name's Lynette Williams. On June 1st of 2023, I, along with 8 other residents of the city of Freeport, completed the 8-week course offered by the Freeport Police Department, the Freeport Civilian Police Academy. Officer Kevin Kramer led this weekly discussion, and during the time we had with him, we learned of the organization of the department, proactive police strategies and traffic enforcement, emergency response team, use of force, gangs, canine demonstration, Detective Bureau, Special Victims Unit, and the State Line Narcotics Team, SLANT, and the use of force simulator and Illinois criminal law. No question was off limits, and all questions were answered. We were entertained with videos both from body cameras and dash cams. It's truly amazing to me the amount of people, some good or bad, who can make horrible and sometimes stupid decisions, and some of those videos we laughed at, and some were appalling. Each of us was given an opportunity to sit in the 911 center and watch calls routed through to the appropriate people. These operators also have a great responsibility to keep themselves calm, cool, and collected through each call. Also remember that just like the police, health personnel, firemen, each of these jobs is a 24/7 job and needs to be filled to keep us protected, healthy, and safe. My ride along was with Officer Matthew Junis. While I didn't get to experience a high-speed chase, I was able to get a good sense of what the officers face each day. My experience was with a domestic call, which resulted in an arrest and a transport to the Stevenson County Jail, kids riding bicycles in the streets, and an assist on a stop with a county deputy when the driver had a suspended license. Right at dusk, we almost hit someone on a bicycle, and I was amazed at Officer Junis's positive handling of this incident. While on patrol, we talked of the community policing efforts and the need for the visual officer presence. This was a great opportunity. I'd encourage everyone to take advantage of this. You begin to understand what policing is about, and not just the arrests in the community, but the community involvement that is required of the officers. Caring about your fellow man is a necessary value to maintain order within our community. Each of us has a duty to try and walk in others' shoes. My experience with this program was extraordinary and would be of all benefit to all community members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is a good program. I appreciate it.
Tommy?
I wanted to tell you, Tom Quinn, you do a good job speaking.
Thank you, Tommy.
And Randy, I wanted to ask you about that family burial down there. You know what they're gonna do with it?
Sorry, Tommy, what was that again?
That family burial down there by, you know, where
The family video?
yeah.
That's a restaurant right now.
I mean, it sounds like there's gonna be a gambling thing. It's that family, it's that video used to be there.
Yes, that's right, Tommy.
And I saw a whole bunch of boards and stuff in it.
It's gonna be a restaurant.
That's what, okay.
Thank you, Tommy. Next item on the agenda is executive session. Read that, please.
Pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jerry,
Sellers had a motion, second. Clem, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah.
All right.
Or no.